everybody, it is Zan coming to you from theothersidevintage.com. I am trying to show you this piece that I worked on live last week. It's an oddball little coffee table, cobbler's table, not sure. But this is actually an inset, it's a hole, so for supplies. And because this table will be seen from front to back, you might can see right here where I painted inside this area, but there's this lip right here. It's a hard to reach place. I try to get my hand, see how my hand hardly gets in there. So I let the whole thing dry because I was working on 3 different pieces, which, you know, including a chair and some other things. Let's show you. This is the chair that we found and that we're recreating. So I'm just going to show you that. So that's behind me. I'm still working on that. I let these dry for almost this entire week because we got busy with Labor Day weekend, Brooklyn's birthday, weddings, congratulations Raven, and such. So, but let me show you. So this inset right here, I have, like I said, I painted it and got up to here, and you might can see the difference between paint and then the wood. So I came up with some ideas. You know, normally I would use I painted it with this brush, with this color. So I'm just showing you. Let me know if we have feedback, you guys, because I have my computer set up really close by, and that could be doing feedback. So let's see if we can do this. I hate when people log on, go live, and then they switch over. So let me just turn that off. Okay, so I'm going to use either my blue sponge. Now, normally with Dixie Belle, we use this to apply the final clear coats and other things. I've got this little 1-inch artist, and I've got this pouncer that I use for putting on stencils. I have all these options. I'm thinking I would like to use my Dixie Belle sponge. So I have a custom blend in here. This is what I painted the rest with. And when you're making a custom blend, always leave extra for issues like this. And well, actually, let me switch gears. Since this has a sponge on the end, I'm going to switch up and see. I'm going to dip right in to the paint, get a little bit on the sponge of the pouncer, and see. Hold on. I think we already have the answer. Can you see that? Can you see the difference now between unpainted, unpainted, painted? I know this is a hard angle. Let me see. I have you set up on a table that is not there. Come closer. I know that my head gets in the way of the lighting, so yeah. See, my head is where that shadow is. Anyways, yes, again, my name is Zan. Do as I try to show you, and I say, not necessarily how I do things. Alright, so I am pouncing this pouncer. It is a item I use for doing stencils. So it's just a little sponge on top of a stick for doing stencils. This is the blue sponge I apply things. I was going to put the blue sponge and try to get on there, but I decided let's try to see if my hand, because of the angle, with this stick would work. And I didn't think it would because I didn't think I could get my hand in there. So I thought I was going to use the sponge that I just showed you instead, because I definitely can get that in there and scrunch it up, and like even have to scrunch it up like this and just use the side. But the pouncer seems to be able to get all the way up there. So I'm going to put a thick coat. Now normally I paint in fairly thin coats, but because of where this is on that weird hard to reach place, I'm going to just drag it across. And if you see some white showing, that's because I used Dixie Belle's Boss to stop the bleed through that comes through with painting darker items, and this is dark wood. This is on rails. Let's see. Okay, I just hate the fact that I'm actually right in the middle of where we should be. So that one coat seems to do well. I'm going to let that dry up. And then what I'm going to do in the meantime, I am going to go ahead and work on the rest of it while that little bit is drying. I am looking for, yes, my rad pad. These come in, I know if you watched last week, different colors because they're different grades of sandpaper, and they're flexible, so you can bend them and get them in creases, just like I showed you with the sponge. You can paint with the sponge by going like this and just using the edge. You can do like this and just use a little bit of that. So I am going to grab the blue, which I believe is fine, and we sell these. And because I painted this, I've already done this, but I just want to show you. Oh, hate that noise, don't you? The thing is, on the third try across, the sound goes away, which tells me that it took all those little bits and pieces off. Now that might look a little white to you in the picture because the sander, but I'm going to go right back over that. Of course my hand's going to be in the way. What better way to get in your own way but right where you're going to be painting. And I'm going to take that brush that I used on the first coat, and while that is drying, I'm going to go ahead and put this second coat on here. Again, I like to go pretty thin. Thinner coats are easier to let them settle, less brush strokes, and I'm going to use my misting bottle. So I'm misting, trying not to get my computer that's sitting over there. Here you guys. And so I'm just going to mist it. I actually didn't need to mist it that much. I'm going to dip a little bit back into my custom paint that I just mixed up in this little jar. With Dixie Belle, you can mix up all kinds of different colors using the colors you have. And what I tend to do is when I have a project I'm working on and I have extra left over, and then another project, I tend to think, let's see if these colors look good together. And sometimes, very often, you come up with a new favorite color, and as long as you remember, like it was 1/3 of, let's say, peacock, 1/3 caviar black, and 1/3 stormy seas, you can remember that combination and you can call it whatever you want because you have just made a custom color to your liking. Again, this is all water-based low VOCs. There are no smells, so again, I am painting in my dining room. Thanks to COVID, we brought a lot of stuff home. I'm not just painting up at the store. And it's funny because you used to have to wear a mask to paint because of the smells, the VOC, like when I'm using, like if you use spray paint or other toxic paint, you have to wear a mask. So regardless of COVID or not, I would have to wear a mask. But because this is low VOCs, there's no smell, I don't have to wear a mask. And because I'm home in the studio and not at the store, I'm not wearing a mask. So it's just me here. They are about to open up the other side today at Railroad Square. We open at 2 today. And let me tell you, while I'm just applying this paint, we have new consigners. We have consigners who have been with us for years that have just expanded and taken on more space in the store because they have been traveling and purchasing and finding the most unique, vintage, funky items. Some of the stuff is new too for gifts, like aprons you might have seen on our Instagram, brand new aprons, pillows, vintage enamel pottery that we got from India. That was an amazing find to find all that. Usually we only find 1 or 2 pieces at a time, but that was lovely. And of course, I call them the youngsters who sell some awesome vintage t-shirts and funky outfits. And then we have some artists like Lindsay who actually create their own clothing and their mask. And so you've got one-of-a-kind custom-made clothing too. All right, so this looks weird because it's wet and the angle of the light is catching it. So you're seeing part of it wet, part of it dry. I'm going to go ahead into that hard crevice spot and use more of this paint. And I'm going to just go ahead and put some on here liberally. Again, I've already painted this with Boss, which is the base coat to keep the bleed through of the dark wood coming through. And then now you can see that part again? You can still see the difference between the dark wood and the wood that I just painted. Even though I went ahead and painted that just a minute ago. There you go, I'm out of the thing. So it's going to take probably about 6 coats of me hand painting in that small little crevice area to get that hard to reach place, because I wanted to let it dry. And again, I don't think it's completely dry right this second, but I'm just to show you, for show you's sake, I'm going to take that sponge tip brush and just apply it again. You want to make sure that's mostly dry. I can tell already the part that I did first when we first came on live is already setting up and is almost dry. So I'm going to be adding. And what's fun about that is this side over here also needs to be painted by hand 6 times. So I will get on the back side of it and paint that when we're off camera. So sometimes when people buy pieces of furniture from me and they become the new owner of a rescued piece, they have no idea how much time I've spent on the piece, and especially sometimes just in one small little bit. Like this little part here will take much longer than it took me to paint the entire thing probably with 2 or 3 coats. So it's funny when someone's like, all right, thank you, I'm gonna put this in my living room, and I'm like, bye. And then I think about the hour I spent just fixing that one little hard to reach spot. So it's kind of funny. It's like rescuing animals. It's like, I worked hard on you to get you better, and now they get to go home and love it and appreciate it. And so I'm glad I put that extra effort in to really catch those spots. Now I could have just left it, but I didn't. All right, I can tell already that when I go over it again on a second swipe, it's pulling the paint off. That's because I haven't let it dry long enough. So again, it's going to take about 20 minutes. If I wasn't live, I would be putting the fan directly on this and letting it dry quicker so that I could paint it quicker, so I don't have to spend all day right here in this little corner stuck in here trying to get this paintbrush up underneath there. But the fan would make it really loud. You wouldn't be able to hear me. So I'm going to go back. You can see based on this, it's almost dry. I did bump into it with my elbow. Oh, just a little bit. So this is drying. And again, that one little under lip, hard to reach place will take me longer to paint than this whole thing. So just showing you sometimes little spots take a little bit more effort. Let me scoot you back now so you can see what I was talking about. And again, this is like a cobbler's table. And this is, there are handles, I took them off to paint, and this is an inset so they can put their supplies. And since someone might use this as a coffee table, when you're painting, again, I got it on me, when you're painting your furniture for your own home, or for a client if you're a furniture flipper, you want to make sure that you paint all the places. Oh, it went fuzzy just for a second, hopefully it'll come back through, hold on. Okay, remember that they might be using it as a coffee table, and that they will see it from all angles. So across the room, way over there, because you're right here, you don't see it. You need to go and move the furniture and put it where you think they see it. And you'll notice that this lip right here, not only the one here that I just painted, this one here can be seen, and there's a big gap because of the way the underside, it's hard to paint. So use your Dixie Belle sponge, use your little artist brushes, even if you just get them at the dollar store or wherever. We do sell brushes anywhere from $1 up to, sorry, $2 up to, I think, 40 for the biggest ones. But use what you have and you can get those spots. But just remember when you're painting, like underneath here, did I paint underneath here? Not yet, but I did go up underneath there about 1 inch, because across the room you can see up underneath here. So it just depends on where it's going to be. Now, scooch back a little bit more. Every time I do this, I know the phone has to do. Okay, so again, I was just showing you, this is the piece I was working on last week, so if you didn't see that, you can just go back on the Other Side Vintage on Facebook that you're watching now and watch that video and see it, of me starting on this piece. And again, I went ahead and painted this little kid's chair that Jason repaired with glue and clamps and stuff. The one that I said I was just going to put screws in, which he said, no, you're not. And he was right. And you see, okay, see here? See these rungs? See right there? I've got to hand paint that again. So I've hand painted the whole piece, but when you're doing rungs, you have to kind of go all the way around them. So you'll notice places you missed, and you'll just want to leave that alone. I did not want to go back and goop it up. I let it completely dry, and now when I do the second coat, that's going to cover that up. And then I'll do a third coat and possibly a fourth. This chair is divine, and yes, it's real wood. I'm not painting underneath. You can see the real wood. This is the one that was found and was going to the trash, and we saved it because I wanted it for a display, but ended up using it for a different project. Alright, you guys, I'm going to continue working on this piece. I'm going to work on the front by painting this while that's drying, and then I will come back out and paint that again. Don't forget, we're opening up right now at 2 o'clock. They're up there right now, Brooklyn and Jason and the whole crew, while I'm here painting and doing other things like hanging out with you guys and doing laundry, because we sell tons of clothes. By the way, I'm going to reactivate just a little bit of water. Tons of clothes, and we have to mend and wash and repair and all that. So I get to stay home and do laundry today for the store, and eventually myself as well. Alright, so I'm just going to be doing this. So again, some pieces, they're easy to paint. It's just, you know, it's just paint. Can't go wrong. And if you go wrong, you just add more, or you can scrap it off with a simple sanding block or the sand pad, which that's a rad pad, and take it back down. You can also change your mind. Right now, if I decided I wanted this to be pink with polka dots, I use that a lot as an example, by the way. If you listen, pink with polka dots, I would let this dry completely. I would get my pink paint out and I would paint right on top of it and pretend like this is the primer. This is the base coat. So you just keep going, and then I would add polka dots, and then I would clear coat it. I can even clear coat this completely. Someone could use it for a year or two, be bored with it, and then paint right over that. Luckily, these are all water-based products, and they're easy just to go right back over. It is just paint. It is not rocket science. It's paint, and you can even change up per each season. If you wanted this to be orange, and you could put pumpkins on it. If you want it to be white, you could put transfers on this. And luckily, with the transfers that we sell for Redesign Prima, you can actually paint over the transfer. So some people are like, oh, once you put a transfer on, they are so thin and so well made that you could actually paint right over them. And I do paint over them to give them some distressing and aged look on some of the pieces. And again, you can paint right over them completely if you want to change up your color. I'm going to come over here and paint, which normally I would just be doing this after, but might as well. What does Sheldon say? If you can lean, you can clean. Well, if you can, no, it doesn't rhyme. Faint, you can paint. You can sit, you can paint, whatever. It doesn't work, but you know what I'm saying. And again, water-based, so the kids can help. They get it on their clothes like I just did. It washes right out if you get it out of there within the next 30 minutes or so. And there's no smells or toxic fumes, or it's all natural. It is chalk mineral paint. So, and then some people say, well, I don't like the dry look or the matte or flat look of chalk paint. And guess what? I love a good glossy paint. So all you do is take your Dixie Belle clear coats. They come in matte, which is the same as this. It's a matte. There's satin, if you want a satin sheen, and there's glossy. There's also Dixie Belle gator hide. I only put that on tables and things that I know people are going to be putting their drinks on without coasters. And you can protect things. You can also use the gator hide for things like your door outside. I'm going to paint my door, my outside door for my house. I'm going to change up the color because, again, it's just paint and it's fall and I want to change it up. And then you just put a layer of Dixie Belle on it, the gator hide, and it keeps it from the damage of the water and the weather, especially because I'm right here in Tallahassee, Florida, where we've got tons of humidity, sometimes hurricanes, and it rains all the time. Gotta love Tallahassee, my hometown. Okay, I'm just touching up and fidgeting with it while that dries. And since you're still here and I'm about to go, because now that we're open, I'd like to leave Facebook for the Other Side Vintage open for people to send messages that we can answer. I'm just going to put another layer. Can you see that? Of that hard to reach lip. And because I let it dry, what was that? Maybe 10 minutes while we were talking. There. Okay. So that would be what, the third time? I'm going to do that a couple more times, and then you won't be able to tell that that spot was missing paint. Again, let me see if I can pull it in. That's that lip. It's hard to tell. I know it looks like it's still not painted because of the shadow with the light behind me, but easy peasy. I'm using this little sponge, and again, if you don't have one of those, just use this sponge you get to put the Dixie Belle clear coats on. You can leave it dry, or you can mist it ever so slightly with your misting bottle. Not to the point where it's dripping. You just want it barely. You can even like wipe it off on your shirt, not this shirt, but the shirt that you use for painting. Dry it out, and then you could apply underneath. You dip this into the paint. And by the way, the Dixie Belle jars are about the same size, so this will fit perfectly in, except for the 8 ounces. Dip in, pull the paint off the edge, and just take this and go all the way across. You can paint here. So you don't have to use just a paint brush to paint. You can use all kinds of things. You guys have even seen me paint with this plastic palette knife. scraper, whatever you want to call it. I've painted with this. Like for example, on this piece, I can't do it because this is staying solid. I could take a red, bright yellow, an orange, anything. I could take any color that's like, wow. Put a little bit on and just drag it across. Let it skip naturally, whoever wants to skip. I can go crosshatch, and it would end up looking like an old boat. Like when you have a boat that has layers and layers of paint because it's been painted so many different things and the sun has cracked it and bleed it back and you'll see through it and the paint's in distress. This is a great tool. When we sell these, I think these are $1. They may be $2 in plastic. You can get these almost anywhere. But use what you have to paint, you guys. And let's see. I think that's going to be it. I'll be working on the chairs and the spindles. And thanks for watching. You can get those hard to reach places. Again, it takes longer to paint that little spot just because you have to let it dry in between. Do some laundry. Do this, do that. Do your paperwork. Take a class online. Pause. Go paint. And it'll be done by the end of the day. So thanks for watching. And let me know if you have any questions. And shout out to Heather, who came into the Other Side Vintage store locally in Tallahassee and bought a bunch of paint for projects she's going to start on. She's a new painter. She's been watching our YouTube. Our YouTube is the Other Side Vintage. And she got inspired by something she saw that I painted, and she thought she could do that too. And I just wish I knew which project it was. So Heather, if you're watching, comment below what project it was that inspired you or what you're painting. I'd love to hear about what you guys are painting at the time. So please jump in, tell us what you're painting, what you've been working on. What tools you use to paint. Do you use something odd to paint with? Odd to most people. Like I've even used, okay, these are made to clean things. I've even used the bristles of this, dip in paint, and gone across a project and let all those bristles make all the wild, crazy work and layers. You can use the glaze, the dark glaze, to antique it by just going across it. There's so many things you can use. Crumpled up paper, you can paint with that. So yeah, just have fun. It's just paint. I'm not an artist. I love to watch the professional artists like Carrie Ann Bade and, oh my gosh, Jim Russell. And I see Michael West. Hey, Mike is watching. He's a sculptor. And I mean, those are artists. Those are true artists. I'm just painting over some furniture. So if you feel like you can't do it, I felt like I couldn't do it. And this paint just makes it easy. So just simple Dixie Belle paint. Yes, we do sell it at the Other Side. You can also buy it from us on Etsy and eBay, the Other Side Vintage, and we'll ship it to you. It's $10 to ship if it's over 50. So easy to do. Try it out. Play with things on your kids. Try furniture you have that you hate, that you think you're going to throw away, and just practice on that. Get a board and practice on that. Make signs for the fall. Go to the Dollar Tree and buy those little pumpkin cut out wooden pre-made pumpkins and paint those. I bought some of those the other day. I actually left the house with COVID, had my mask on, went super early, and they had a couple of the pumpkins, and I'm going to paint them. Am I going to paint them orange? No. I think I'm going to paint them pink and black and like very gothic-y because that's what I prefer, but you guys might want to go with the traditional orange or black or whatever you want. But let the kids play. Make it your art class at home. Don't be scared. People don't dabble in paint very much anymore, and with my anxiety, it just lets me get out of my head and have some fun and create something in the meantime. So can't go wrong. You can only have fun and take a picture and say, look what we made. Have fun, you guys.